we have our council member, Brandon Todd. And so, council member Todd, welcome. Good morning. Oh, you have to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. And we're recording this, so we're going to share it with our members, and people have already asked to see a copy of this. So, and so on the conversation already is Nancy, and I see Scott, and then from your office is Eric. So, first of all, Councilmember Todd, thank you for taking the time to come on and have this important conversation with us.
Absolutely.
Just before you got on the call, we were talking about toilet paper, and we're talking about, it's a serious issue that people, elderly people in our community, even younger people, they don't have toilet paper. So, so we ordered 120 rolls, and we're going to be making them available through the Maharat. She's graciously offered to help people who need a roll. So, but that's an example of how people in our city and in our ward are dealing with unprecedented concerns. And we thought you would be a great resource for our community to help us navigate, like, what are some organizations that we could be supporting during this difficult time, and how, because we want to help other people.
Absolutely.
What are some suggestions you have about how we can help people?
No, first, thank you, Rabbi, and everyone for joining, Nancy and Ruth. And I think this is, as you said, an unprecedented time for our city, our country, the world, and certainly our ward. And we have residents and neighbors who need very basic supports, toilet paper and water and meals to help them get through times like this. My office, we have on average for the last 5 weeks been delivering about 350 hot meals a day to seniors and disabled residents, and even families. A number of the seniors who we're delivering to, they may not necessarily be financially strapped, but they're either afraid to go out or they don't have anyone to run those basic errands. And so we've been, in cases where needed, providing them with Lysol and toilet paper and some of the basic things that you noted. And so we'll keep doing that.
So where do you get that food from?
So we get it donated from a number of restaurants in our ward. Homestead has been amazing. It's a restaurant in Petworth. They've been doing 50 meals a week, and they actually are upping it to 100 meals. We have also been getting food from a number of nonprofits across the city who serve residents across DC. And we average about 350 meals every day. I think Friday we'll have on tap about 500 meals. A caterer who actually isn't in our ward, Open Arms Catering, she's been donating 50 meals a week. It's, the outpouring of support from just everyday residents and small business owners has really been tremendous to make sure that folks have what they need. I personally delivered some meals yesterday, and people are grateful and appreciative. A woman who's 93 told me, she said, this is helpful because I don't have the strength and the energy to cook, and I'm scared to go to the market. So it really, really helps people. One thing we've also been encouraging neighbors not to do is hoard things like toilet paper and bottled water, so that folks can actually have the ability to get it when they need it. And so we just want to, make sure we're putting that reminder out there. Every Wednesday at Calvin Coolidge Senior High School, the district government provides groceries to residents between 12:30 and 2 p.m. and they're while supplies last. And I believe the last 2 weeks we've served over 300 families or individuals. Every day at Coolidge Senior High School, as well as Roosevelt and Truesdale Elementary School, we serve breakfast and lunch to school-age children and their families. One thing we're not doing, if a student shows up or a parent shows up, and they say they need 5 meals, we're gonna give them 5 meals so that everyone in the family has the ability to have breakfast and lunch. And so the government's been doing that since this health emergency started, and we will continue to do it throughout the health emergency. We also have programming in place that will allow for people who are homebound due to COVID to get groceries and necessities delivered right to their door. So they can call 311 and request that service. And those are some of the things that the government is doing, but organizations like So Others Might Eat.
Wait, can we stop you for one second?
Kitchen.
So there's a beautiful work that your office is doing and that the city is doing. And do you need volunteers? I mean, how are you able to deliver the 350 meals? Like if people from our congregation want to, who feel like they can help. So what's
we do need volunteers. It takes about 15 to 20 people each day to help us get the meals delivered. And we usually ask each volunteer to help us deliver to about 10 to 15 homes or more, depending on the volume for that day. So we do need help, and you can email me at btodd@dccouncil.us. And we'll be happy to have folks volunteer. And we provide face masks and gloves for volunteers, and I believe hand sanitizer to make sure that we're safe and that everyone is able to do it safely. And we have had over 100 people sign up to help deliver meals, and some do it every single day, and some do it when they can a few times a week. So any help is greatly appreciated for this effort.
And the people need their own car to go and do this?
Yes, you would need your own car to do it.
Okay, and then what about serving the food in the like the locations you mentioned? Do you need volunteers there, or is the city?
So one thing we've done, when we get the meals, they're already pre-packaged from the restaurant or from the provider. So when we get them, they're pre-packaged, we bag them and then provide a list. So there's no real food handling. It is handled at the point of preparation at the restaurant or the caterer. Yeah.
Okay, so now I cut you off. So then you're telling us about the NGOs where people, the non-government organization. Yeah.
Absolutely. So Others Might Eat, DC Central Kitchen, In Street Village, Martha's Table, Catholic Charities, Bread for the City, Central Union Mission. These are all organizations, and we can provide you links to their website, who are nonprofits, and they rely heavily on contributions from residents. It can be $1 to $100 to help them be able to provide services. And a lot of those organizations are providing groceries and toilet paper and toiletries for residents who are in need in the District of Columbia. So we have worked with them to get resources to our residents here in Ward 4. And they've been great partners. Another way that residents can help is by joining the DC Department of Health's Medical Reserve Corps. And essentially, they support the Department of Health in their role as a lead for public health and medical emergency preparedness. So a lot of the volunteers who are participating in this Medical Reserve Corps are volunteering at some of the city's testing sites. For instance, at the United Medical Center, where we have a government-run testing site, they are helping to schedule appointments. They are helping to check individuals who are being tested for COVID-19 and make sure that they get everything that they need. We have also opened another city-run testing site on South Dakota Avenue in Ward 5, just outside of Ward 4, at the Bertie Backus site, which is UDC's community college. And so they're doing testing for district residents on Tuesdays and Thursdays by appointment. So for someone who feels as if they're experiencing symptoms of COVID-19, they would just call the number and get tested. And so the Medical Reserve Corps is also a really great way for residents to help in the actual response of COVID and delivering direct service to neighbors.
Okay, Maharat, do you have any questions for the council?
Yeah, thank you so much for all of this. I have two main questions. The first would be, is there anything that, let's say, high school students can do that would be helpful, whether it's making phone calls or something like that?
Absolutely. So one thing that we've done from my office, we have called Eric, over 8,000 Ward 4 residents at this point, really as a check-in call, letting them know that we're thinking about them, making sure that people have all of the information that I have. One thing that I've realized throughout this health emergency is that there's a lot of information from a lot of different places. And so it's been very important for me to make sure that residents, whether they're on email, whether they have to get a telephone call, a robocall, is that they know exactly what I know and what is the best information, so that they don't have to rely on what they may read on a blog or what they may see on social media, but that they're getting the information from our health experts in the district. So we've been calling residents, Ward 4 residents. So if you have high school students, they may not want to go out, we can send them a list of neighbors to call. And it's to make sure you have all the information you need. If you need testing information, if you need information around where to get meals or supplies, or if you have information about you can't pay your bills, unemployment insurance. We've seen over, is it 90,000 applications now, I believe, that we've taken in for residents who are applying for unemployment insurance. So we're making sure they have information about that.
So wait, is that 90,000 in the district?
So yes, but all of them aren't DC residents.
Okay.
If you're employed in the district, this is where you would apply for your unemployment insurance benefit. I don't remember offhand the number of actual DC residents, but there are quite a lot.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go on.
And then so another thing, and I was actually on the phone for a while with Naima Jefferson yesterday about this. If folks want to donate some money, particularly if they got a stimulus and don't need all of it, or do you feel comfortable recommending some different places that are supporting Ward 4 and DC residents?
Absolutely. I think any of the nonprofits, and we can get a full list to you, that are providing the meals, that are providing direct service to residents. I would say any of them. Most of them have been around for quite a long time. So folks can definitely donate to those nonprofits because they are providing direct services. And they're running on shoestring budgets. A lot of their donors, which are corporations in many cases, have scaled back, so we want to make sure that that we're able to help them be able to do the work they're doing. And really, any amount is helpful, right? Some people think if I can't give a big donation, then it's not worth it. But $5 and $10, it goes a long way when you're trying to feed folks, get people toilet paper, get people water, and the like. So we'll get you.
Love to be able to share that. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
And also, council member, with respect to, you mentioned like people are in financial need. So if somebody, what would be your recommendation to somebody who can't pay their rent? What's your recommendation then? And also a person who's, let's say, about to become homeless.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So in our COVID legislation, we instituted no evictions in the district.
Wait. So is that passed? Is that the law now?
It's the law now through the health emergency. So no evictions.
Until when? Until this is over?
Till May 15th currently. That's when the mayor has said that we will end it, but it could be extended. And should she extend it, the legislation would automatically extend to whatever that date is. No utility shutoffs, so no water, gas, or electric shutoffs. No internet, phone, or cable television shutoffs during the health emergency. If someone, we're encouraging folks, if you can pay your rent, to pay it. If you can pay even whatever amount, to pay it. But if you can't, to work directly with your landlord. One thing we've done for landlords is we've allowed the ability for folks who have a mortgage, the ability to defer their mortgage payments for up to 90 days. And if you're a landlord, who has a mortgage on a rental property and you defer your mortgage for the 90 days, the district law would require you to then pass that deferment on to your tenant. At the end of the 90 days, obviously, banks will work with lenders on getting those payments, and likewise with landlords and tenants. And so I know that we had to clarify some language for our Department of Insurance, Securities, and Banking to be clear on what they're asking mortgage companies to do on behalf of DC residents. But we can also, if folks reach out to my office, we can also connect people with nonprofits that are, providing rental assistance and things like that. But as you can imagine, a lot of them are stretched really thin right now because there's so many people who are in need. So it's great when the community is able to step up and kind of fill some of those gaps.
Yeah, can I ask another question?
Of course.
So, with two little boys at home, something I've been wondering a lot about is kids who are, especially kids who are the children of essential workers, kids who are living in tight quarters and unable to go to playgrounds anymore and things like that. Do you have any sense of how the children in our ward, in the district, are being affected, and if there's any way we could help with that? I mean, we could organize toys, but I imagine that might be a bit of a circus. Yeah.
One thing I did a few weeks ago is I hosted a Ward 4 telephone town hall, and it was incredible because over 2,600 residents dialed in, and I had a child psychiatrist on to talk to families and parents about what COVID-19 is doing to kids. So if you're 6 years old, you may or may not have a good understanding as to why you're not going back to school for the rest of the year, why you can't see and play with your friends, why your birthday party had to be canceled, or really have an understanding of what, what's happening. One thing she encouraged, and she's actually a Shepherd Park neighbor, Dr. Ava Dooms, she asked parents to have a frank conversation with, your kids, about what's going on, how important it is to be socially distant, how, no matter how badly you want to go to that neighborhood playground, but how important it is that you don't. So we're always looking at ways to give families information on, things you can do with your kids, ways to talk to them about it. I'm probably going to pull together another call very soon, since it looks like we'll be dealing with the health emergency for a little bit of time. Even, once the health emergency is lifted in a district, I expect that we won't resume to full operations, whether it's government operations or just personal operations, right? Folks will probably still be on contracted work schedule. How quickly will people go back to playgrounds and participate in mass gatherings? And so, we learn something new every day. The government is being very nimble in how we respond to it and what information we get to folks. So like I said, we're learning something new every day. I know that I am, and I'm always thinking of ways to make sure Ward 4 residents have all the information they need, have good advice from a number of sources.
And one thing maybe that if this does continue throughout the summer that I'm sure our congregation would love to work on is maybe purchasing just like little kiddie pools for some families,
Yes.
and like sunscreen or things like that, who are in need. I can't even, with all the resources I have, I can't even imagine doing this with a third of that. So
right,
yeah,
absolutely. And their neighbors, who as you noted, are in smaller housing accommodations and don't necessarily, they're worried about how they're going to pay rent. So certainly toys or a kiddie pool is not within reach. So we'll definitely be thinking about how to get even some of those resources. I think that's a great point. We think about food and things like that, but also peace of mind and how the kids are adjusting is important. And I think it will be increasingly important as we continue down this health emergency.
Thank you.
Council member, our friend Nancy has a question for you.
Yes, of
Nancy.
course.
Council member, this is about assistance to a group of people, small business owners.
Yes.
A restaurant owner and he said, and he's struggling. You know, some of the restaurants are doing great now if they're good at carry out, but anyway, he's struggling, and my husband said, why don't you apply for the federal assistance? And he said, oh, it's too much bother. This is a man who's, you know, raised in another country. English is language. Is it a difficult process? Do you have any idea about applying for?
So they have a number of requirements. One thing that, you know, I have been doing is I have a Dolly Turner on my staff. She is my deputy chief of staff, and part of her job all the time, but even more so now, is helping our small businesses navigate the SBA process, as well as the grants that we had in DC government. And we can pair small business owners with resources and folks who can help them with the process, fill out their application. You know, we have folks in the government who speak a number of languages that can really help to get to our small businesses. When we first started this process, you know, I talked to our deputy mayor about making sure that, you know, it's the small businesses who have the owner that English is his second language, or has the owner that it's a family-run business and he doesn't have a back office that can pull down tax information and things like that. So trying to make the process as streamlined and as easy as possible for the DC government grant was a big priority, but also making sure that our government had the ability to provide resources for the federal funding has also been a big priority. So if you know folks, I know that the federal dollars, the PPP program, they ran out, and I know that there is the federal government is working now through the Congress to get more funding approved. So we should know any day now what exactly that looks like. So if you know people who need help with the process, please send them my way and we will get them connected to the right resources.
Okay, that sounds good. Actually, I'm a Maryland resident and the restaurant is in Maryland, so I'll contact one of my council members.
Okay, sure
Thank
thing.
you.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I don't know, does anybody have any more questions before? I know the council member is very busy today, so does anybody have any other questions? Okay, so council member, we're gonna share this, your conversation with us, with our community. I'm sure people are gonna wanna offer to support some of these organizations. And before you go, Scott says he has a question. So
Yes.
Scott, you can unmute yourself and ask.
Yep, cool. Thank you, Rabbi, and thanks, Councilmember Todd. I kind of similar vein of what Ruth was asking about kids doing stuff. So I happen to live across the street from Shepherd Park, and you know we have a nice big field as well as the play area. So not as a ratting on people, like people are jumping the fence to go play soccer on the field and such. And it's perfectly socially distanced because there's very few people doing it. I was wondering if, especially as things warm up, if there might be opportunities or suggestions to maybe reopen fenced-in fields with like the posted signage guidelines and such to give kids who don't have space to run around a safer place to do it rather than like the sidewalk and such, and consider options so that it's not just the people who happen to have the strength to jump the fence, but like can do a safer guideline than that, and give people maybe some opportunities that they otherwise wouldn't have in a more safe fashion.
Sure. No, and that's a great question. And I would say, you know, at the beginning of this health emergency, we did not close our parks or our playgrounds, but it got to the point where, you know, and not just in our ward, but all across the city, folks were not adhering to the strict social distancing guidelines. I think that we will have to see our cases, our positive cases go down before we release those restrictions on our public spaces. In the district, we are seeing an increase in cases every day, but the number of cases is far less than we modeled for at this time. I think we're right around 3,300 or so cases. About 500 of those are in our ward. And so you know, I do think it's important for kids and families to be able to get out and you know, get fresh air and run around. But for me, and I know for our health experts in the district, we will want to see the number of cases steadily decline before we open up our parks and our public playgrounds.
Can you just, council member, before you go, can you just follow up on that last point you made? How are the decisions being made? Who is the mayor consulting with?
Yeah.
And I think that's really important because people
Absolutely.
are asking me, like, what are you guys going to do? I said, well, we're going to take our guidance from the mayor.
Yes.
And so they say, yeah, but how's the mayor making her decisions?
So the mayor relies on the guidance of our city's doctor, LaQuandra Nesbitt. She's the director of DC Health. We rely on guidance from the CDC. We rely on guidance from, you know, the president's task force and what they're recommending. But our doctor really is the lead on our COVID response. You know, we take her expertise, the expertise of science and other professionals throughout our government, but also on the federal level to help us to come up with how we respond to this. With that being said, you know, let's just say, you know, I know there have been talks about reopening certain states and reopening the country. We follow the federal government's recommendations, but we also look to see what is actually happening in DC, and that's how we respond. So,
and are you working closely with Maryland and Virginia? Is there strong cooperation there?
Absolutely. Our government is working hand in hand with Maryland and Virginia. I think it's important that happens. I know that our mayor is working in concert with their governors. Likewise, our health director, Ms. Nesbitt, Dr. Nesbitt, is working with the health professionals in Maryland and Virginia, so that when we respond as a region. I think that is really important because, well, you all know we can hop right over the way and we're in Silver Spring, right? And so the way that Maryland responds is important as to how we respond. So we're working in close collaboration on how we respond and, you know, what we're able to do and how we do it. And I expect that we will continue that close collaboration throughout the health emergency.
Maharat, any follow-up questions before we let the, all right, Council Member Todd, we bless you and your office with health, and we encourage you to continue doing the good work that you're doing, helping people. And you know that if you ever need some resource to help the community, you can call upon our congregation, and we'll try to mobilize to help if there's a discrete need to be of assistance to our neighbors. Because, and like we said at the very beginning, the Maharat, we ordered 120 rolls last night of toilet paper, and we should be getting that. I think that's thanks to Harris was able to find it. Now, to be perfectly honest, it's not it's commercial grade, so it's a little bit less than top quality, but you know, people are in need and people are very nervous about it. So we're going to make this available to the Shepherd Park community.
That's wonderful.
And if you know somebody who's in need, but it hasn't arrived yet. I don't know if Harris is still on. Harris, when is it supposed to get here?
Scheduled to arrive on Tuesday, so we'll keep a close eye on it.
Okay, so when it comes in, we'll let you know. We'll reach out to your office, and this is obviously people in the neighborhood need 1 or 2 rolls. People can't come get a dozen rolls. This is like to hold people over until we're able to work this out. So
Absolutely.
Tuesday we have a shipment coming. Please.
And I think that's exactly, you know, I think that's exactly right. You know, in Shepherd Park and North Portal and Colonial Village, there are a lot of seniors who just can't get out and can't go to multiple places. So that will help them a lot. If
we could deliver to them too. If you know somebody who wants like a roll or 2 dropped off, we have volunteers who could drop them off in a safe way. So, okay. Councilmember Todd, blessings to everybody, and
thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Blessings. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Safe, everyone.